You listen to everyone say the economy is in shambles, but room rates are crazy because demand is high.
They used to offer a lot of offers in Las Vegas, especially like if you go to casino and the hotel is really, really cheap. But that's not the case right now.
They said Las Vegas never sleeps. But this week, the city woke up to a silence it hadn't heard in decades. More than 800 mid-level managers at MGM Resorts, the ones who kept the dream running behind the curtains, were suddenly told they were no longer needed. Overnight, the machine that powered America's most dazzling illusion began to lose its gears. These weren't part-time dealers or temporary staff. They were supervisors, senior managers, people who'd spent decades keeping the show alive, believing their positions were untouchable beneath the Golden Lions banner. But this time, even the safest seats in Vegas weren't safe at all. Behind the lights, the fountains, and the noise, the dream machine of Vegas has started to shake. And for the first time, it's not the gamblers losing at the tables, it's the people who kept the tables turning. Inside employee chat groups, a haunting question spreads. If MGM is cutting, who's next? That single line captures the fear rippling through the Strip. Because this isn't just about one company, it's about a system built on belief. When Caesars fell earlier this year, quietly removed from the S&P 500, everyone hoped it was an isolated collapse. But now, with MGM bleeding talent and morale, many are whispering the same fear. This could be the next domino. The layoffs aren't just numbers. They're proof that Vegas's golden glow is powered by people now being pushed into darkness. The hotels still shine, influencers still post their champagne nights, and tourists still chase the illusion of luck. But behind that shimmer, something is melting down, slowly, silently, and perhaps irreversibly. Vegas once sold dreams. Today, it's selling the illusion of stability. And if you listen carefully, beneath the music, you can almost hear it, the quiet hum of a city pretending everything's fine, while its heartbeat fades one worker at a time. MGM's silence speaks louder than any press release. Something is breaking, and it's not just the numbers. It's the faith that kept this desert empire alive. So the question isn't whether MGM is next. The question is whether Las Vegas itself has already begun its hidden meltdown. For years, Vegas sold the story that everything was fine as long as the lights stayed on. But numbers don't lie, and this time they're starting to scream louder than the music on the Strip. MGM's most recent quarter revealed what locals already felt in their wallets: a 4% drop in net revenue in Las Vegas compared to last year. That might sound small, but for a corporation that earns nearly $2 billion every 3 months, it's the equivalent of $80 million evaporating in a single season, money that could have paid the annual wages of more than 1,000 workers who were just laid off. At the same time, hotel occupancy at some of MGM's biggest properties, like the MGM Grand and Mandalay Bay, fell by nearly 4 percentage points. That's tens of thousands of empty room nights, entire floors left in the dark, while everyday people outside these walls struggle to pay rent. And when rooms stay empty, tips vanish, hours get cut, and the workers who once made a living from Vegas's endless flow of visitors start counting every dollar again. Locals say they can feel it. The casinos still buzz on weekends, but midweek, the floors are quiet. The dice keep rolling, but the house isn't winning like before. Table game profits, known as the hold, have fallen below expectations, meaning even when people come to play, the margins that keep the lights on are fading. It's not just a corporate problem anymore, it's a citywide pulse, one that's getting weaker each quarter. What's worse is that these drops are happening even after record tourist promotions and price hikes. Vegas isn't dying because people stopped coming. It's dying because people stopped feeling it was worth the price. Resort fees, parking charges, and convenience add-ons have quietly turned what used to be a spontaneous getaway into a math problem. The average visitor now spends more, but feels like they're getting less. And that gap between cost and value is where faith in Vegas is bleeding out. Ask anyone who lives here, from the bellhop to the bartender, and they'll tell you the problem isn't just economics, it's exhaustion. Locals are working harder for fewer tips, paying higher rents, and watching the companies they served for decades cut non-essential staff to protect profits. But what happens when the people being cut are the ones who made visitors feel at home? The answer is already visible. Vegas still shines, but it no longer glows. When Caesars was removed from the S&P 500 earlier this year, it was treated like a financial headline, a reshuffling of numbers that only investors cared about. But for people who live and work in Las Vegas, it was something else entirely. It was a warning shot. And now that echo has reached MGM. The same symptoms that brought down Caesars are quietly spreading: shrinking profits, falling weekday occupancy, and an erosion of trust between the companies and the very people who keep them alive. Inside MGM's Las Vegas properties, the layoffs didn't just target excess staff. They targeted the middle, the heartbeat that connects policy to practice. Departments that once had 3 managers now have 1 juggling everything. Supervisors are covering shifts on the casino floor, while senior staff are fighting to keep morale from collapsing. Employees describe a new kind of anxiety, one that doesn't come from losing a hand at blackjack, but from not knowing if they'll have a schedule next week. What makes this worse is the déjà vu. Workers remember 2010, when thousands were furloughed after the recession, and again in 2020, when the pandemic froze the Strip. Many of them rebuilt their lives, believing that loyalty would one day mean security. But Vegas doesn't seem to reward loyalty anymore. It rewards margins. And that's what's fueling the real domino effect. Not just a chain of financial losses, but a chain of lost faith. When a company as massive as MGM cuts hundreds of experienced managers, it's not just restructuring, it's rewriting the social contract of the city. Every time a middle manager disappears, so does a bridge between the workers and the executives. The result? Slower service, lower morale, longer lines, and a city that's beginning to feel hollowed out from the inside. Tourists may not notice it right away, but locals do. They can feel the difference in the air, the sense that Vegas isn't run by people anymore, but by spreadsheets. This is the hidden domino that Caesars fall predicted, not just a corporate failure, but a human unraveling. When decisions are made to satisfy shareholders instead of sustain a community, Vegas becomes less of a dream and more of a transaction. And that's the quiet crisis no one wants to say out loud. The possibility that Las Vegas, the city built to make everyone feel like a winner, is running out of people who still believe in the game. For decades, the true magic of Las Vegas wasn't the lights or the luxury. It was the people behind them. The ones who remembered a guest's favorite drink, who stayed late to reset a table before the next show, who turned a night of gambling into a night of belonging. But when hundreds of mid-level managers vanish, the heart of that magic starts to falter. Each cut might look like a clean line on a balance sheet, yet in reality, it slices through the connections that make this city breathe. Talk to anyone on the Strip today and they'll tell you the same thing. Everyone's doing the work of 2 people. Bellmen are folding towels. Supervisors are bussing tables. Some employees say they don't take lunch breaks anymore, not because they're told not to, but because there's simply no one left to cover them. It's a quiet kind of exhaustion, the sort that doesn't make headlines, but erodes a city from within. For locals, this isn't about corporate efficiency, it's about survival. Many have mortgages hanging over their heads, children in school, parents depending on them. Losing a job here isn't just losing a paycheck, it's losing the ability to stay in the city you helped build. The average rent in Las Vegas now hovers near $2,000 a month, while the minimum wage remains stuck at $12 an hour. Do the math, and you'll understand why so many families live one missed shift away from falling behind. Cost cutting feels logical from the top, but on the ground, it's emotional carnage. Guests might notice the longer wait times, the colder smiles, the little mistakes that never used to happen. What they don't see are the workers behind those mistakes, running on fumes, wondering how long they can keep smiling before breaking. Vegas was supposed to be the city that never sleeps. Now, for thousands of its workers, it's the city that never rests. And here lies the cruelest irony. While corporations tighten their belts to protect quarterly margins, the people holding the belts together are the ones slipping through the cracks. Every layoff might save a few dollars, but it costs something far greater: the trust, pride, and humanity that once made this desert of lights feel alive. This isn't the first time Vegas has danced on the edge of collapse. Back in 2010, when the Great Recession drained tourism and froze credit, MGM cut thousands across its network. 10 years later, in 2020, the pandemic silenced the Strip, leaving once bustling casinos as empty shells. Workers were furloughed, then recalled, then let go again. Each crisis ended with promises that the city had learned its lesson, that next time it would protect its people, value stability over short-term gain. But here we are again, 15 years later, watching the same movie play out under brighter lights and colder logic. Vegas is built on repetition. The jackpots spin, the shows repeat, the tourists come and go. But that pattern has seeped into its economy too. Every time the city recovers, it does so by rebuilding on fragile ground, by stacking profits on borrowed optimism and calling it resilience. Caesar's fall from the S&P 500 wasn't just a financial event. It was a flashing sign that the old rhythm of boom, bust, repeat is breaking down. When a giant like Caesar's gets pulled from an index that defines stability, it signals to investors that even the brightest towers of the Strip are vulnerable to gravity. And now, with MGM's restructuring, the parallels are unmistakable. The same forces that sank Caesars, high leverage, soft midweek traffic, and over-reliance on foreign visitors, are eroding MGM's foundation too. But the lesson Vegas never learned is this: you can't build sustainability on spectacle. You can't trade people for percentages forever. Every time a corporation lays off hundreds to balance its books, it chips away at the culture that made visitors fall in love with this city in the first place. For locals who've lived through every downturn, this moment feels like déjà vu with a cruel twist. They've seen this story before, only now the stakes are higher. Housing costs are steeper, corporate safety nets thinner, and patience is wearing out. The cycle continues not because Vegas can't change, but because those in charge have forgotten why it ever worked. Vegas didn't become legendary because of its profit margins. It became legendary because it believed in people who believed in it. And if that belief keeps breaking, there won't be another recovery, only a slow, glittering decline hidden behind a million lights. On paper, Las Vegas has never been more transparent. The FTC's new junk fee rule, introduced in 2025, forced hotels and travel platforms to show the full cost of rooms up front: resort fees, facility charges, everything. It was supposed to rebuild trust, a promise that what you see is what you pay. But somehow, that clarity hasn't made people feel any better. The illusion of fairness was replaced by a harsher truth: Vegas isn't cheap anymore. The deals that once lured millions, 99 rooms, 5 buffets, $10 blackjack tables, have quietly vanished, and in their place stands a new kind of math that no longer favors the working class. Locals know it too. They're the ones hearing guests complain that Vegas just doesn't feel like a good deal anymore. The city that once celebrated accessibility now feels gated by invisible tolls. Resort fees, parking fees, convenience fees, they all add up to one feeling: distrust. People are paying more than ever before, yet leaving with less joy, less wonder, and far less reason to come back. Transparency has done what decades of hidden charges couldn't. It's made the illusion vanish. And the numbers prove it. Occupancy across the Strip fell by nearly 4 percentage points compared to last year, while revenue per available room dropped by more than 11%. The money is slipping away not because tourists are angry, but because they're tired. Tired of paying premium prices for experiences that feel mechanical. Tired of being nickel and dimed in a city that once made extravagance feel effortless. The same fatigue runs through the people who live here. Workers see the irony daily. Companies preaching transparency while hiding layoffs under the word realignment. Executives talking about guest satisfaction while cutting the very staff who deliver it. In a city built on illusion, the biggest illusion now is trust. Vegas's problem isn't that it changed, it's that it forgot what made people forgive its excess in the first place. People didn't come here because it was cheap. They came because it was generous, because it made them feel like for one night, in one place, they mattered. But when profit replaces personality, when efficiency replaces empathy, transparency becomes just another light on the strip, bright, blinding, and empty. And so Vegas stands in a paradox, more honest than ever, yet less believable than before. There's a question that hangs over every neon sign now, flickering between hope and denial. What is Vegas really worth anymore? Not in dollars, not in stock prices, but in meaning. Because behind every spreadsheet and glowing ad campaign lies a truth that locals whisper more than they shout. The city feels different. The lights still flash, the fountains still dance, but the warmth that once made strangers feel like friends has cooled into calculation. For decades, Vegas didn't have to explain its worth. It proved it. A cab ride, a smile, a lucky streak at the tables, those small human moments built a billion-dollar economy. But today, as corporations optimize every second of the experience, that magic is slipping. Visitors still come for the spectacle, but they leave talking about the cost. And that's the shift that scares everyone here. Not that tourists are gone, but that they're coming without the feeling of belonging. If Vegas wants to survive this tipping point, it has to remember what made it matter. It's not another marketing campaign or festival weekend that will save it. It's rebuilding trust, inside and out. That means showing guests a price that feels fair, not just legal. It means treating workers not as costs but as investments. It means realizing that service isn't a transaction, it's the heartbeat of this desert illusion. There are signs of hope, small but real. A few independent hotels and smaller resorts are testing no-surprise pricing, promising guests the exact amount they'll pay from booking to checkout. Others are experimenting with midweek revival deals, giving local and international travelers reasons to come when the Strip usually sleeps. These efforts may not fix everything, but they hint at a future where Vegas stops pretending and starts listening. Because this city's greatest gamble isn't at the tables, it's whether it can find its soul again. If it fails, the domino effect will keep spreading, one corporation after another, until the Strip becomes a hollow monument to what greed can build and what indifference can destroy. But if Vegas can redefine worth it, not as profit, but as pride, community, and experience, then maybe, just maybe, those lights will mean something again. As dawn breaks over the Strip, the city looks the same. Brilliant, relentless, alive. The billboards flash promises of fortune, the fountains rise in perfect rhythm, and the casinos hum like nothing's changed. But if you stand close enough, you'll feel it. Beneath the spectacle, Vegas is holding its breath. The people who built its magic are tired, the tourists who once worshipped it are questioning their loyalty, and the corporations that run it are chasing numbers that no longer tell the whole story. Vegas was never just a city. It was a deal between dreamers and believers. You give the city your time, your faith, your last $20, and it gives you a memory worth more than the loss. That's what made it work. That's what made it human. But when the deal starts to feel one-sided, when the house keeps taking and gives less in return, the belief that powered this desert empire begins to fade. The lights still shine, but they don't feel as warm. The songs still play, but the melody sounds tired. If there's a lesson in MGM's fall and Caesar's collapse, it's not about financial models. It's about fragility. The kind that can't be measured in earnings per share or quarterly margins. Because when the middle class of a dream disappears, when the ones who kept the gears turning are pushed out, what's left isn't Vegas. It's just a facade. And facades don't last forever. Maybe the true test of recovery isn't how many rooms are full or how much revenue is regained. Maybe it's when the people who once lit up this city can afford to live here again. Maybe it's when a guest leaves not feeling overcharged, but understood. Because Vegas doesn't need another reinvention. It needs redemption. A return to the reason people fell in love with it in the first place. Until then, the city will keep shining, but dimmer each year, a reflection of the dreams it once kept alive. So the next time you see those lights stretching across the desert sky, remember, what you're really seeing isn't brightness. It's endurance. The kind that flickers quietly, waiting for someone to care enough to make it glow again. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so we can keep uncovering the truths behind the lights that never sleep. Because somewhere beneath the glow of Vegas, the people who built its brilliance are still hoping it remembers them.